What is your secret that you can't tell anyone because it will probably ruin your life? In high school, I stole the MP3 player of a classmate. Went into the locker room during pay and snatched it. I didn't steal it because I wanted it or to sell it. I just did it because she was an awful judgmental queen bee, and I wanted to get back at her. People saw me with it in hands, so the next day I was called into the principal's office. Steadfastly and self-assuredly denied everything. They looked at my bag, then called my parents who searched my entire room for the stolen MP3 player. They never found it, so I was let go. Still got into a fist fight with the girl later though, as she knew it was me. To this day I've never admitted it to anyone, ever. I was that petty. I still don't feel regret, even though I'm usually empathetic to a fault. She was that awful to others. I recognize it was wrong though, definitely. In any case, the MP3 player was buried in my garden as soon as I got home, and this garden is currently a megastore parking lot. It's the silliest thing, don't know why I've never admitted to it. I left my job at an electronics manufacturing company in 2002, but they continued paying me my full salary, including all incremental raises and annual bonus until they offered me a very generous redundancy package in 2022 due to departmental restructuring, including an £85,000 lump sum contribution to my pension fund. I even got the quarterly magazine and annual Christmas card sent to me. In March of this year, 2023, I got an invite to the 75th anniversary of the company, went along, had a great time at the free bar, and nobody realized I hadn't worked there for over 20 years. You've got to love a good administrative error. I don't give my best at work because I don't care anymore. I used to give them 100% and nobody noticed and only focused on the small mistakes I made. Now I'd give 40-50% and my manager keeps bugging me why my performance has dropped compared to before. I simply don't care. The salary is fine compared to the country's standard, but in this field of work is on the lower end of the chart. I don't care. I'm overworked and underpaid. By industry standard, not countrywide standard. I have a bad back and from time to time it goes into a full spasm. One day I was getting out of bed, and as my foot hit the floor I went into a full spasm. I have no idea how, but a perfectly formed turd fell out the leg of my shorts and landed on the floor. Due to my spasm, I fell and landed right in the poop. The commotion woke up my GF at the time, and she ran over to check on me. I blamed the dog. I've never actually told anyone this before. The story everyone knows is my boyfriend and I voluntarily left our place of work because our relationship went against policy, and we valued our relationship more than our crappy jobs. The truth is we got caught ducking in my car before work, and left in order to avoid repercussions. I hid the extent of my alcoholism from everyone since I was 15. I'm now 35 and 8 weeks sober. No one knows I'm sober now as they've never known I had an alcohol issue. I was also a high-functioning alcoholic. I started at 17. The people who lived with me knew, but my co-workers and friends at the charity where I volunteered had no idea. When I finally decided to get sober I dropped off the face of the earth for about 3 months. No contact with anyone. Upon returning to said charity and explaining my situation and why I had ghosted, I was told by multiple people that I wasn't an alcoholic because they never saw me drunk. It took a lot for me to look in the mirror and admit that I was out of control at 25. I sat in a recliner sweating my ass off, clutching the armrests so hard that my shoulder blades hurt because I knew if I got out of that chair I was going to go to the liquor store. I couldn't fall asleep until after 2 AM for weeks. Knowing that I couldn't go get booze even if I wanted to quell my anxiety. I know what it takes to be your own intervention team. 8 weeks is ducking huge. I don't think it would ruin my life currently, but here we go. When I was a kid in elementary I was abused by one of the tutors at my school and said nothing happened when confronted about it by school officials. I had a lot of problems with learning when I was growing up, so I often needed extra help. The elementary school had people come in as tutors for kids and we'd all get like an hour once a week to catch up on things we didn't understand in class. My tutor there was this young guy and at first I thought he was one of the coolest people I could ever meet. He would tell stories about going on cool hiking trips, scuba diving, and even running in a marathon. He'd bring snacks all the time and once even brought me a Diary of a Wimpy Kid book and I couldn't help but look up to him. Things got weird after a few weeks and it started with him becoming super touchy, but I didn't mind. I looked at him like a cool older brother. It eventually got to the point where I knew it wasn't normal and I began to feel awful when I was around him. He would tell me to give him massages because his body hurt and my touch would help him. To make everything short and nondescript, I touched places a child definitely should not touch. One day I got called to the front office and they asked me strange questions regarding his teaching style. I think they noticed I wasn't actually improving in any of my classes. The next day I was called in again, but he was there too. Essentially they were confronting me about not getting better at reading or basic mathematics. His demeanor changed in this setting. He told them I wasn't trying hard enough and that I might have a disorder like ADHD. I didn't look at him the entire time and I felt like crying because I was disappointing the adults in my life. They even talked about telling my mom. After he left, I think the counselor noticed how weird I was and asked me if insert last name treated me badly or did things adults shouldn't do. I lied immediately, without thought in my head. If I told them then I'd get in trouble too or they would have thought I was gay. She took my word and I left the next week. When I saw him again, he was an entirely different person. He was much quieter and passive aggressive. In fact, he pretended he barely knew me when he had been tutoring me for almost the entire year. After that year he switched schools and I never saw him again. No one knows what happened and I was convinced my family members would call me gay if I told them or even punish me for letting something like that happen. I didn't have the greatest childhood. We were struggling and I had no father, so I didn't have the luxury of a decent male figure in my life. I'm currently in therapy and I'm contemplating telling my therapist because I'm having some issues with my sexuality and I'm not coping in the safest ways, but I still feel bad because I really did think he was the coolest man I've ever met in my childhood despite what happened. I'm 40 and my parents have no idea that I never actually graduated college. I went for almost 6 years and never felt like I really knew what I was doing. School wasn't necessarily hard for me, but I just couldn't bring myself to focus or be dedicated to it. My parents were super obsessed with the idea that everyone needs a degree to get any decent job, so there was a ton of pressure and dropping out wasn't an option. So, I graduated in a winter semester and decided not to walk the stage since the December ceremony was always pretty small and I knew they wouldn't think that was weird. This happened to be during the recession in the 2000s, so I had an excuse for not finding a conventionally professional job right after that. Now, I actually have a really good job with a company that focuses on hiring people based on experience, skill, and personality, so it turns out I didn't even need that degree. But I will never tell my parents the truth. Edit. Dang, I did not expect this to get so many responses from others in a similar situation. Thanks for sharing your stories. I'm glad to hear that others were able to find their own way despite familial pressure. To those saying now it's on the internet and no longer a secret, this is an old throwaway account and I specifically switched over to post this comment. Also, I am aware that people have murdered over this type of lie. Yikes. But I very much love my parents and am also not a raging psychopath, so worries on that front. 5 years before my stepdad died of Alzheimer's and leukemia, I noticed he was very quiet in the evenings when I visited him and my mom. I asked him, why don't you want to talk a bit more? To which he responded, if I don't say anything I can't say anything wrong. I took it to mean that he was afraid of conflicts with my mom, and said that I would want to hear anything he had to say. After he died I realized why he said what he said. I was at a lunch with them when he tried to ask me something but put in completely wrong nouns, nonsense choices, and every time he did that my mom started laughing and said, ha ha ha, now you've totally gotten things weird. She didn't know she was being condescending because she didn't know he was getting advanced dementia. None of us knew then. And she just brushed his mistakes off as being silly mistakes. She couldn't know it shamed him so much that he stopped talking, since he didn't trust his words anymore, nor his sense of balance. I will never ever explain this to my mom, not even if I am super angry. I would do unretractable damage to my relationship with her. She mourned him deeply. Edit. To the heartless people insulting my mother over this post, she stood with my stepdad to the very end. Sat with him in his room in the nursing home when he sometimes would scream for a half hour in mortal dread as he realized the consequences of his worsening condition. Those days would completely crush her. She suffered more than anyone I know have done, and also saw her own dad die of cancer in her youth, so you know nothing of her sacrifice. We buried him 2 weeks ago. I'm doing all I can to spend time with my mom at the cabin and cook great meals for her, do chores in the garden. My brother and his wife helps too. I hate to say this, but I don't see myself as a doctor in the future. But I can't say anything about it because my mom already supported me financially. It's too late to back out. It's been a year since I wrote this down. I read all your comments and I fully appreciate it. Right now I already learned how to love medicine. I've seen lots of people with MDs go on to medicine adjacent work. Find what interests you and then figure out how to incorporate your education into the new thing if possible. For example, MD that works in a research institute doing medical ethics work. Some people go more into business side of things. I think there are more options than bedside doctoring, is what I'm saying. My childhood friend has 2 siblings that he doesn't know exist. They're twins, around 2 years old now. I promised to keep it a secret. My dad and his dad are close friends. My dad is quite the gossip, and spilled every last detail to me. Apparently their father, handsome, tall, a sports prodigy, slept with a doctor who lied about being on birth control so that she could give birth to his children, who she claimed had superior genetics. She was his former doctor who pulled up his private records in order to score a date with him as she had all his contact info at hand. Never wanted child support or even a father in her kids' lives, just an involuntary sperm donor. Very weird. Working in Spain on a restaurant bar on the beach, there was a regular that kinda looked like someone that was theoretically dead. The dead guy was a South American cartel boss that commits suicide by blasting his face with a shotgun, so he was recognized by his shoes. So I can't confirm anything and I'm sure as hell I was not going to ask him, but one afternoon I'm serving and this guy is seating close to me. One of the other servers was heading out and I called him, raising my voice, and this guy's, the cartel boss, turned around. I pretended not noticing and called the other server again and started walking towards the door because, just out of chance, the server's name was the same name the cartel boss had originally. Some 10 minutes later the guy paid and left and never returned. How sure am I it was the dead cartel boss? I say 90%, but I was not going to take that chance telling anyone. I mean, this guy had a journalist held because they took a picture of him. I bullied a kid in 2nd grade because he was mean to me one time. Like every day bullied him, went out of my way to make his life suck. Got my friends to join in with me. Turns out the kid was only mean because he was going through a lot at home. Suddenly I noticed he wasn't at school anymore for a week or so. An announcement came on one morning over the school PA system asking for a moment of silence. Turns out this kid's mother's boyfriend beat him so badly that he fell into a coma, died a week later. I have always felt a deep amount of shame for this. Also, my father killed someone when I was 5. Brutal crime. Beat the person to death over a road rage incident. Barely did any time for it. Not something I like to talk about or ever bring up in public. Very ashamed of it. Lol, I have lied my way into a job. I only do half of what I am supposed to do and have won awards for it despite being 100% full of shit. Most of this job is built on reputation and being able to inspire and engage people, and I am 100% not who I say I am in my job. In my real life I am an absolute pushover who is actually desperately unhappy in my own life but have no drive or confidence to change anything, but I teach people daily how to do just that. I sometimes have the strong urge to run away from my life and start over. It may not ruin it but won't be good. I've had the same idea for years. I've planned out details for years in my head, like where I would go, how I would fake my death, how to get away with it, act. Lol, it's fun to think about, but I'd care if I would ever act on it. I did this once, not fake my death though, and it did not work out. I have dual citizenship between 2 countries that don't share any citizen info. So I lived in country A but used my country B passport to fly to country B, so country A had no info on my passport being used. Plan when I got there was to transfer all my money to a new account in country B and then close my old accounts. Banking privacy means neither government or family could demand info about this in my jurisdiction, since I was not wanted for any serious crime. Then take up work, build a new life and never look back at my old one. I'm not going to turn this into a what, but basically I lasted about a week and I had started making some new contacts. I started being put in a situation where I had to come up with a more comprehensive backstory. I started realizing what it actually does to you to constantly have to keep track of what false stories you've told people and never being able to tell anyone your real self, for example childhood memories or anything really. The anxiety piled up real fast and the actual ramifications of never seeing friends or family again became clearer. Looking back, I wonder if I had some kind of psychotic break, because the last 3 days before I left and the first few days after I arrived were all a haze of rushing incomplete thoughts sprinkled with prophetic experiences. For example, reading the intro to an article and a specific sentence seeming like it was a personal message aimed at me. Never experienced anything like it before or since. I secretly hate the super popular friend in my friend group as they are a one-upper. They are annoying, super intrusive, and not lying. They are rich and do everything. They have a one-upper story and you know they are telling the truth. Oh yeah? That's awesome. Reminds me of when I went skydiving without a parachute. My partner jumped after me, clipped onto me, and pulled his chute. It was the most exhilarating experience. Let Emmy have this rantle. Solution: become a wanderer. After each one of his over-the-top stories you tell one that is similar but ridiculously less interesting in all of the ways his seems exaggerated. Him: I jumped out of an airplane without a parachute. You: sadly, yeah. I went hiking without a backpack. And socks. No socks. I guarantee you will get huge laughs with this. More people are likely irritated by this guy than you realize. This is true confidence. Not bragging. Just telling a relatable, unremarkable thing and be appreciative about it. My rich, somewhat obnoxious friend went on about his luxury spa experience. Another friend shared something like, well, yesterday when I washed my hands, I hit a once-in-a-lifetime perfect pressure on the tap. The water came out one steady stream, no foam or splash. It looked like a rod of clear glass. The temperature was exactly body temperature too. Having my hands under it felt like being dissolved into pure ecstasy. Best 20 seconds ever. Guess whose story people were more interested in? When I was 19 I found a duffel bag with almost $300 cash, several handguns, cell phones, passports, and other document, stashed in some bushes. It's outrageous that you would say this without finishing the story. Let's just say I haven't paid for groceries, gas, or going out for the last 20-ish years. My husband is bisexual. Wouldn't ruin my life necessarily, but prob my kiddos and my husband's as they would hate him for how I found out. I'm straight female and he cheated on me 4 years with male sex workers. Everyone in our lives thinks we're so perfect and that he would never cheat on me. He has stopped cheating, but sometimes I want to shout from the rooftops that he lied and gaslit me for so long over stupid shit when all the time he was cheating. My secret: I once spent 12 days in a mental hospital because I was thinking about killing myself. I wasn't really crazy, mostly just suffering from massive stress and insomnia. I voluntarily checked in, but then couldn't leave for a while. The secret is that I enjoyed it. I've seldom laughed so hard or had such interesting conversations. Also saw some awful stuff, like a woman banging her head against the floor until she bled. It was weird and surreal, sleeping a lot, lining up to get Drew Gus, a very strange roommate who scared me a little. Lining up to go to dinner. Terrible food. Having very uncomfortable conversations on visitor day. Nothing else to worry about except when to go to group. Not having to really behave or worry that I was acting properly. Sometimes I think about checking back in for a little vacation. I was in a similar position. This was when I was 18. Now I am 20 years old. My mom is Japanese and my dad is Mexican. There was always a cultural issue that sent both of them crazy at times. Their plan was to divorce and go separate ways after I graduated from high school, as things didn't really work out. But they called it off because they both genuinely wanted to do better and actually figure out the root cause of why they always argue. A couple of years go by and they both made an effort to patch things up, and since then, they're like best friends. But right when things were going really well for them, I stumbled upon an old hard drive in 2020 that my dad had stored for filing taxes, job documentation, and saving pictures of when I was little. I thought I would archive the hard drive for when in doubt. The hard drive died. My dad isn't tech savvy, so he doesn't know that hard drives can die. I also ran a data recovery software just in case there were pictures of me that might have been deleted by accident. Once I recovered what I could, I found some more pictures of me and my mother, but there were also pictures of another woman. I found more and more pictures and videos of the same woman. I also found some nudes, 6 tapes, and a TXT file. The pictures and videos were from 2014 to 2017, and in the TXT file, he wrote out his feelings. That he was angry with me and my mother because he didn't understand us. That when he divorces my mother, he would have this other woman that he could care for in Mexico. But he felt regret and emptiness when he was with that woman, and something felt wrong. So in 2018, when I left to study abroad in Japan as a junior in HS, my dad decided to cut things off with this other woman, that he would work things out with my mom and fix the mistakes that he has been doing. This explains why my mother had really good chemistry with my dad after I came back in 2019. It's been 4 years since then, and there are no more cultural issues like before. They are still together, happier than before. I still have those archived files to hold against my dad because of what he did. But I came to terms with it after thinking for a while. That my dad isn't just my dad, but another person, and people make mistakes. By making mistakes and putting in the effort to improve yourself is what makes us better humans. I lived with this so nearly 5 decades. Last year was diagnosed with ADHD. The diagnosis occurred when the person doing the test was unable to complete it because at each question I would ramble on about whatever popped into my head. I could not stay focused on, or care about, each question as it was asked. After an hour we had only made it through 3 questions. It has been life-changing to realize I've had this my whole life. I dropped out of college 4 times, at 4 different colleges. I do impulsive things, like getting married at 21. I love to craft, but shift to a different craft every month or so. My closet is packed full of everything a person would need to explore, about 6 different crafting ideas. Knowing why I do these things has really helped me reflect on decisions I've made over the years, and I'm learning to hate myself a bit less for all the money I've wasted and terrible choices I've made. I won the lotto a few years ago, 6 million, and I haven't told anyone. I have been secretly putting the lot into savings, mutual funds, property investments and low-risk stocks as a way to generate passive income. At the moment, my income per month is at a modest $6,000. I split that $6K with half going to savings and mutual funds while the other goes to paying for property investments. I will tell them when I finally have at least $10K per month in passive income. to which I will then split it evenly 2k each per month for the rest of their lives. Bonus 24k per year for life is very generous. This is enough for each member to go on vacation each year, save up for college, put down a nice deposit, pay off bills, etc. I believe in long-term goals and not instant gratification when it comes to building wealth. Not exactly life-ruining for me, but in high school, a girl that I liked asked me that if her mom ever came asking, I should say a gold chain that her mom found was from me. Turns out one day she was walking home from tennis practice and then her best friend's dad drove by her and offered a ride. Since her and her best friend had grown up together and this man was basically like a father to her since elementary, she got in and they drove home. But apparently the dad had been attracted to this girl, and since she was almost 18, wanted to make his move to be more than just a father figure. He gave her a golden necklace as a present, all wrapped up, and by her account probably worth a few $100s. The girl did not want to take the chain, but the dad would not take no for an answer, so she took it and left in a hurry. But thing is, he was still married to the best friend's mom, and she certainly couldn't tell her best friend, who would almost certainly disown her dad. My crush was planning to get rid of the chain as soon as possible, but her mom is very nosy and apparently found this golden chain in the girl's backpack and then demanded to know where the girl got it from. On impulse she said she got it from me. After hearing the details I was horrified and agreed to both keep the secret and say that I gave her the chain if the mom ever came to ask me. The mom never did confront me or anything, but since then me and her have never spoken about this, and we'll probably take the specifics of whose dad it was to our graves, or risk destroying a whole family. I don't know why, but I lie about so many things, big and small, then sometimes I get caught up and have to keep telling more lies to continue the ruse. It's like vomit, I can't stop it. I've even had to change friend circles previously cause I couldn't keep up with the lies, and I know people get really confused as to why I drop them with no explanation. Childhood trauma, maybe IDK? I don't believe in God. Was sent to religious school as a child. Still go to church every Sunday morning. Pray with my family at the dinner table. Thank God for blessing us with everything we have. I lie about believing solely for my mother, who is old, frail, and very religious. Unfortunately, she lives in my house as she's unable to care for herself. Not even my wife knows I've lost faith. For all the believers who take offense to this, just laugh at me as I burn in hell. I don't think it'll ruin my life, but my parents will be super disappointed, which isn't a shocker since they've always made it clear I'm the child they hate and wish they're aborted, but I got my tubes tied, which now they just remove the tubes so it slims the chances of cancer. I've never wanted kids. I also checked to see if I had the ability to have kids, which I didn't, so this was so much better. I haven't told them since they always said if I didn't get pregnant soon they'd have someone great me, so I'd be forced to give them a grandchild. I still carry a flame for the girl I fell for when I was 14. It's been 20 years. We are entirely different human beings with separate lives. She probably doesn't even think of me. But if she one day showed up out of the blue, I can't say that I wouldn't leave everything I have behind. She probably is not who you think she is, man. You may just be idealizing her. Think of how she has changed over 2 decades. My problem is that I can't even tell my secret, because I think any attempt at putting it into words, or explaining it, will just make people super confused and alienated. The thing is, I basically feel like there's a part of my brain that is handicapped, and in some specific emotional contexts I can't behave normally. People always tell me I'm such a calm and nice guy, etc. But I actually have a pretty terrible temper, and I'm super inarticulate if I'm pushed into certain situations. That's actually why I'm calm. I'm holding back the entire time. I'm trying not to show the side of me that people can't understand, that I'm 100% aware of, and I have no idea how to deal with. I also can't be in any relationship long term. I can have friends who I see sometimes, but I can't live with others and do stuff day to day, because I'm weird. Basically, it wouldn't ruin my life, but it would forever change how a friend might see her dad. Our neighbor when I was a child was my mother's best friend, Lynn. Her daughter, Stacy, was my best friend and we grew up together. They were the perfect neighbors and our family did everything with their family. Camping, scouting, just did life together in every way. In our late teens early 20s, Stacy's mom became very ill with a random infection and was hospitalized for weeks. For several days her status was touch and go and we all prayed for a miracle for her to pull through. We stayed at the hospital at all times, just in case something happened. My mother ran home from the hospital to pick something up from home one afternoon and Lynn's husband happened to go home at the same time. He came over to our house and made this big confession to my mother that he was in love with her and always had been, and then tried to make a pass at my mother. She completely freaked out and left both upset and angry. After Lynn began to heal and made her way back home, my mom couldn't ever face her. She said she couldn't lie to her face, even by omission. My dad knew what happened and refused to talk to Lynn's husband ever again, saying he would probably kill him if he heard him speak. Everything was terribly awkward. Lynn questioned me several times and asked why my parents were upset and what had changed between them. Their friendship never went back to normal. Lynn and her husband were both diagnosed with cancer a few years later and died within the same year of each other. They've been gone for about 12 years now. Stacy has asked me many times what happened between our parents. Because I would much rather her dislike my parents than hers, I play it off like my parents were unreasonable and just chose to not be good friends. I would feel terrible if she ever found out now, since there is no one alive to give her an explanation. My childhood buddy, who happens to be a skilled surgeon, hit the jackpot last year with a mind-boggling $10 million in the Powerball lottery. It's mind-blowing to think that someone who was already financially well off would be bestowed with such wealth. He has kept this extraordinary news a secret, only confiding in me. His wife and 2 kids have absolutely no idea that their lives are about to change forever. Instead of splurging recklessly like we often imagine lottery winners doing, my friend has chosen to maintain a low-key lifestyle. He continues to go to work, performing surgeries with his characteristic dedication and professionalism. His master plan is to invest the entire windfall in gold and pass it on to his children, securing their financial future. It's a move that defies expectations and challenges the stereotypes we associate with lottery winners. I have mostly female friends and I'm madly in love with all of them and want to sleep with them. I above all else value them as friends and would never act on my desires. I'm also deeply ashamed as it fulfills the stereotype that guys wanna sleep with their female friends. As a woman, but I don't speak for all women, I think it's only shameful if you only maintained a friendship with them in hopes of wanting to sleep with them and thinking you deserve to be you are nice to them while not actually valuing them as human beings. If you treat them with respect and actually enjoy their friendship, I think you're fine. You can't help who you are attracted to.